Estou passando nesse podcast para dividir uma informação que fez toda a diferença na minha vida. Quer fazer pós-graduação, mas tá impossível correr de um lugar para o outro?
Pois é, ainda mais com o trânsito.
Então você precisa conhecer a educação à distância do Senac. Sabia que é nota máxima no MEC? E tem diversos cursos de pós-graduação para te levar ainda mais longe. 100% online, sem necessidade de TCC e com acesso direto a todos os professores.
Ah, saber isso fez diferença sim.
Inscreva-se já na pós-graduação EAD. Quer saber? Senac EAD.
Today on CityCast Denver, it's time to enjoy Colorado's homegrown produce. All 4 of our state's most beloved crops are in season right now. So we got our whole team together to do some research and share a truckload of crazy fun facts about Pueblo chilies, Palisade peaches, Rocky Ford melons, and Olathe sweet corn. Today is Thursday, August 29th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Producer Olivia Jewel Love, hello.
Hey, Bree, how's it going?
Producer Paul Caroli, hi.
I'm so happy to be here, Bree.
And of course, newsletter editor Peyton Garcia.
Hi, guys.
Hello. So we are talking about Colorado crops, things in agriculture we're famous for that, I don't know, I love all of the things we picked. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to talk about all of these. So we each picked a famous Colorado crop and did some research, and we're going to share a little bit about those things and some fun facts we learned. Who wants to start? Paul, do you want to start with chilies? Perhaps
big one
of the most famous. Yeah,
I did get the honor when we were divvying these up of taking the chili, the famous Pueblo chili, which is the tack I took on this. Is what's the deal with the Pueblo chili? Where'd it come from? What do people mean when they say that? What is it? All my crazy fun facts really revolve around that. The whole hatch thing, that's a part of it, but honestly not that interesting to me. That's just marketing. It's just a marketing battle, marketing rivalry. Maybe there's more to that story, but I couldn't find anything fun there, which maybe in itself is a crazy fun fact, that whole rivalry is just sort of trumped up and weird.
Like our chilies, we're talking Pueblo chilies versus hatch, or... What do you mean?
What is Hatch?
Hatch chilies from New Mexico. The other famous chili brand.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about Pueblo chilies.
Okay.
The ones we're proud of. And so here's the story with the Pueblo chili. Where does it come from? People have been growing chilies around Pueblo in the Arkansas Valley for probably like 150 years, 200 years, according to History Colorado, the various sources I read. It was Mexican traders who might have brought the seeds up there for the first time. And it's just a good place to grow chilies based on the climate, is what I learned. But then the fun part of this story is really when Italian immigrants started coming to the area. The Pueblo chili, the story of the chili is the mixing of cultures, people coming together. So Italian immigrants started showing up to work in the mines. And then it's a dream of a lot of these people to get out of the mines and start a farm and start growing chilies. And that's what happened. There's a lot of, if you go down there today during chili roasting season and you drive east of town, you'll go past farm stands, and a lot of these farms have Italian names. So some of the biggest farms, which is just an interesting little convergence of cultures. Crazy fun fact, if you will.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, though, because that is a culture that's very strong in Pueblo.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So one of these Italian farmers is a guy named Harry Mosco, which is a name that's going to sound familiar to anyone who's bought a Pueblo chili, the Mosco. But Harry Mosco, Italian immigrant, had a farm, grew chilies, died, sadly. His family found a sack of his chili seeds that he saved, and they, a couple of years after he died, I think it was 1988, they gave them to Harry's nephew, Dr. Michael Bartolo, which is an incredibly important name. And this is a person who is still alive. And this is the guy who's credited with the popularization of the Pueblo chili. Because what he did with that sack of seeds is he took it to the CSU research facility in Rocky Ford where he worked. He's a PhD in like plant physiology, very smart guy. And he started growing these seeds and taking the cultivation really, really seriously. And he would grow them year after year. And he would pick his favorite ones, the ones with the thickest flesh that are the best for roasting, because that's the kind of food that people in Pueblo like to cook and use chilies for. And he eventually had this one particular strain that stabilized, and it was a little bit hotter than the hatch chili. So people like that. And it had that super thick flesh and skin that made it so prime for roasting. And that's the chili that he started sharing with people and popularized as what we know today, the Moscow Mirasol, which is a variety of chili. Mirasol means looking to the sky because the chilies grow upwards. But that's the most popular, most prevalent chili that when people say Pueblo chili,
that's what they
you
mean.
almost certainly are talking about the Moscow Mirasol.
So, sorry, Paul, when did you say this sort of seed transfer happened? Because did you say the 80s?
Crazy recently. That was another thing.
Yeah.
It's not like this 100-year-old tradition, although, yes, people have been growing chilies there for a long time and cooking the kind of food with chilies for a long time. But this particular chili that is now basically like the Pueblo chili, when you think about chilies, it's this chili, 1988. And it was just a few years after that the first Pueblo Chili and Bean Festival happened.
That is so interesting because, like you said, chilies have been being grown in this region forever. But it's really when someone takes a hold of the branding idea that it can become something known outside of Colorado.
Yeah, I just thought that was it's so recent. And the fact that it was cultures coming together, and it was just it's a science success story too. Like this guy went to school for it, and then he took on his family tradition, and it seems like he perfected the chili, and he did it in Pueblo. I love this story.
That's a way cooler origin story than my produce.
Well, maybe it's time to switch it over to you, Peyton.
Wait, do we get all your fun facts though, Paul?
Yeah.
Did I say the thing about the Mirasol means looking to the sky?
Yeah, that's cute.
All right.
I like that.
That is cute. I mean, most chilies grow down. If you grow a chili, like a jalapeno, it'll point down.
I didn't know that.
Mirasols,
I
they
bet
grow
the
up.
first guy who
Boom.
saw that was like, what the heck? Why is my chili upside down?
I could totally see someone thinking that. It looks
That would
weird.
be me. I'd be like, witchcraft!
You mean like
Witches!"
the pointy part is pointing up?
Yeah, the pointy part points up.
That's
Witches.
fascinating. I feel like I just learned a lot, Paul.
So many fun
thank you for
facts. So
that.
many
Crazy fun
crazy, amazing
facts.
fun facts.
I can't believe I'm blown away by the time frame. That is crazy
Yeah.
to me.
I felt the
That is
exact
wild.
same way.
Well, Peyton, this was the perfect segue into your
I can
Your
give you my
crop.
way less entertaining origin story of the Palisade peach, which, by the way, I would actually argue is Colorado's most famous produce. I would say people know the Palisade peach more than they know the Pueblo chili, and it's probably more popular. But
We should
I
definitely
digress.
rank them at the end of this. I mean, if you're picking a fight here, we
Yeah.
could definitely do our rankings.
I mean, I'm ready to fight
all right. No, you
over
do
my
your thing. I'll
my
consider
Palisade
mine.
peaches.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the Palisade peach was brought to Colorado's Western Slope by a white man in 1882, just a year after the U.S. government forced the indigenous people off their land and seized it for themselves. So quite a bit less cool than your story, Paul.
I mean, familiar.
But
We know how this stuff
Familiar.
goes. This is
Familiar.
the place we live.
The area's first orchards were planted by a white settler named John Harlow in 1882. His first attempt at creating an orchard failed miserably. He realized that the soil was nutrient rich, but that there wasn't enough rainfall to sustain fruit trees. So his second attempt, he manually watered his crops and then had a really great year, which actually led him to spearhead a major canal project that diverted water from the Colorado River to irrigate the entire region. And even though it took years to complete, by the beginning of the 20th century, more than 25,000 pounds of peaches were being shipped from Palisade across the country every single year. And he's basically the guy who was responsible for that.
Water is so important. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
person
like
who
mine
can
is a
create
water
that
story,
like
too.
water distribution network, like that's how things happen in the West. That's how Denver happened.
I mean, so I think we can thank him for Palisade's nickname, the fruit basket of Colorado, because it's so fruitful over there. That's true. It's truly their nickname, apparently. So anyway, John made these peaches, and he became really famous for them. He started Peach Days, which in the early 20th century, so the early 1900s, which still takes place today in Palisade every August. It's a 10-day celebration of peaches, which includes things like a parade, orchard tours, peach wine dinners, farmers markets, and the annual Palisade Peach Festival. And my interesting fact was the very first Peach Day Festival was in 1909, and President Taft was the speaker.
Oh, that's fun to think about.
Bathtub Taft?
Yeah.
One of our most portly presidents.
Big boy.
Colorado is the 6th largest peach producing state in the country, with peaches accounting for over 75% of our fruit production here.
Do you have the rest of that list? I mean,
Is
you hear
Georgia
about
number
Georgia.
one?
Yeah.
Georgia Peach?
I guess I was not curious enough to look up the top 5.
We're number 6.
I'm on it. You keep going, Peyton.
I did get some fun peach tips, which I am going to put in the newsletter at some point, but I did not know this. If you're going to like a peach stand or a farmer's market and you ask them for firsts, they'll give you the prettiest, yummiest peaches, which are going to be like the ripest, most perfect peaches for eating, like fresh. And that's going to be more expensive. But if you ask for seconds, they'll give you the like ugly, janky looking peaches that are still edible, but just not like ideal for eating, like cutting up and eating, but are perfectly good, sometimes better for cooking with. And they're cheaper. So depending on what you want your peaches for, you could save a couple cents if you're just gonna like
make them
smush
into
them
a
up
pie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, but good to know because
Good to know the lingo. I always
Yeah.
love when I know the insider talk.
I've got that list if y'all are ready. It's going to
All right,
blow
let's
your
hear
mind.
it, Paul.
what you got, Paul.
Number 5, and so this is from worldpopulationreview.com, which is a website with a ton of pop-ups. So take this with a grain of salt.
Sweet.
Number 5, New Jersey. Number 4, Colorado. Number 3, Pennsylvania.
Wait, I thought we were 6.
Hey, according to worldpopulationreview.com, we're number 4.
Okay, sorry.
Pennsylvania's number 3, South Carolina's number 2, and then California's number 1.
Where is
Yeah.
Georgia?
What?
They're like
None of
number
this.
8.
What?
I don't trust this site.
Well, they need to get rid of their license plate.
All right. Well, feel free to do your own research on that, readers. The last thing I'd like to say about Palisade peaches is what can't you make with a Palisade peach? That's my argument for it being the best Colorado produce. You can make ice cream, cobbler, salsa, jam, vinaigrette, wine, pizza toppings.
Yeah, I was gonna say just grilled peaches, delicious.
Grilled
Went to a
peaches.
great
Just a grilled
peach day
peach.
celebration
Crostinis.
at Paul's house last year.
There's truly nothing you
yeah.
can't make with a peach.
Paul, you used to be you
Peach
were
day.
the king of the peaches here.
Well, it used to be as harsh. I think I still am. I mean, this was the
when's-
eighth
I mean, you weren't gonna
annual.
throw one this year.
Well, we had a very reserved
You had a
peach
low-key
day.
one.
We had a very low-key peach day. The tradition is still alive. It's on life support because
Oh, we
our
just
house
weren't
is
invited.
in bad shape. Maybe next year you'll get the invite again. I hope so.
I bought a shirt for your peach day last year. I bought a special peach shirt and I didn't even get re-invited. Wow.
Next year you got a shot.
What do you got?
Yeah, Olivia, what do you got?
Corn!
Corn.
Corn! It's time. So, this one's gonna ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Olathe sweet
Oh,
corn.
Olathe.
And before you come at me, this was verified by 2 local news outlets, 9 News and CPR, Colorado Public Radio.
You're talking about
I
the
don't know why I felt
pronunciation of the name
We're
of the
talking
the
town.
about-
pronunciation. Everybody, okay,
because it
I
ends
hear
with an E.
my
right?
host Bree Davies say Olathe sweet corn, and I am from Kansas, and I grew up right next to a city called Olathe, Kansas. So when I started hearing people say Olathe when I moved here, I was like, "What? That's whack." And when I got this assignment, I started digging. It is Olathe.
You were
Y'all
correct.
are just wrong.
Boom.
I stand
And-
corrected.
I'm sure that everybody's gonna go sound off in the Reddit and YouTube comments, but whatever. I'm standing by this.
This is a fact
as,
check.
As
I
the
think this
person
is a
who
fact
grew up
check.
next to Olathe, Kansas, and who checked a couple stories to find out what the truth is. So that's probably the most amazing fact, but I will
All
digress.
right. What's the
So-
second most amazing?
Well, there's a lot of amazing facts about corn because corn is like everything.
so
Corn
good.
is everything. We know this. But just like Paul's chilies, the Olathe sweet corn is actually kind of a recent development.
Really?
So the man they call the Corn King, David Gallinat,
Love it.
was the corn geneticist who made Olathe sweet corn possible back in the early 1980s. And he did some corn strain magic, aka science, with making the strain sweeter than normal corn.
I just think this is so funny that so many of these stories are like 100 years ago, like many myths and legends about corn arose. And then like 20 years ago, it all became, let me tell you
Yeah.
about the exact genome of the best possible
Well,
type
here's
of
the
corn.
here's the funny thing about this. They call this guy the Corn King, but I would argue that this man is actually the Corn Prince
Okay.
because his father, the late Dr. Walton C. Gallinat, was also a, quote, corn trickster. He developed many varieties of corn. He grew one that grew to 2 feet long, and he developed a square cob that wouldn't roll off a plate.
What?
Wow.
Why aren't we using that?
I don't know. So he comes from a lineage of sorts. And so he's definitely the Corn Prince. I mean, if we look at his father.
I agree with that.
And my favorite fact about the Corn Prince is he's had this life centered around corn, but from this Colorado Sun article I was reading, he told them he rarely eats corn now. His preferred vegetable is green beans.
He's like corned out. He's all corned out or what?
I guess he spent his whole life doing it. He's like, ugh, no more corn. Anyway, Tuxedo Corn Company is the biggest sweet corn producer in the state. The season for it is generally July through September. And if you'll remember last year, there was a huge decline in the production of it because of a huge op we know as the corn silk earworm, who got into the corn and was munching on it.
Ew.
And he's still there, I assume, because the numbers look to be still down this year. It looked like they was going to be like they're expecting to ship 300,000 boxes when an average year is 600,000, which is crazy. So like we're still down. But what I learned about this little corn silk earworm is that it sounds like he kind of just like munches around the top and then leaves. So like turns out the corn is actually still perfectly edible, but they just can't
Looks-wise,
sell it.
it doesn't
Yeah,
look
they can't
good.
sell it because it looks messed up. So I'm wondering if any of those like places like Imperfect Foods or, those places would sell it. But yeah, that's been the main thing. And a lot of them were saying, especially in stuff I was reading from last year when it was a huge issue, they weren't even going to harvest a lot of the stuff because they knew it was like infested with these worms and it was just a waste of their resources because they're like hand picking this stuff.
Because you just can't
I
sell
mean-
it. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Worm cooties. I don't want worm cooties on my
Well,
corn.
I don't know that they have cooties. I think that's our bias as consumers. And if we actually would just open our hearts a little bit to the corn silk earworm, we could still have corn, and maybe the farmers wouldn't be going broke over this damn worm.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm with Peyton in that like we grew up with a certain expectation and standard about grocery stores. I know this about Americans in particular is like we like very specific, pretty looking things.
Pretty corn.
Maybe the peach seconds and firsts rule can be applied to corn.
Open your
Maybe.
hearts to ugly corn is what I would say to you.
Maybe you could ask for seconds corn and you'll get that worm corn.
But I've got one more interesting tidbit about our Olathe sweet corn, moving right along from that. So Olathe over in Montrose County, a lot of agricultural workers over these past years have come to Olathe to harvest the sweet corn and work in other crops that are down there. And so I think this was like last year's numbers, but the population is around 1,800 and it's actually 58% Latino, which is really interesting because that's a lot of the people that are coming there. And from this article I was reading, Spanish is just as often heard as English on the streets. But it's kind of a source of tension there, it sounds like, because it's really a conservative, like
it is
deep red area.
Yes,
and
lots
like
of Trump
voting
signs.
area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
when I was there, it was lots of Trumpy stuff.
Yeah, so I thought that was a really interesting mix, and like it sounds like a lot of small businesses have popped up, owned by Latino people that have moved there.
That's cool.
But yeah, it sounds like there could be, some tension in the community. I don't know. But I found that all very interesting.
I do just want to say, since we were talking about the worm problem, I have had Olathe sweet corn this year. I had it last night, and it is delicious. So, and I got it at King Super. So I would just not deter anyone from eating
Thanks
it.
to the corn prince. They're not
I want
selling. They
corn.
won't sell the stuff that's had the worm. The worm isn't still in it anyway.
I
And
just
they
wanted
won't
to make
sell
sure
it.
people know you
They
can
won't
still
sell
buy
it.
it, and it's still good.
Bree, how about you?
Anyway.
What's your what's our fourth item
Sure.
of produce?
Well, my item of produce actually covers several things because a Rocky Ford melon is there's several kinds of melon that fall under the Rocky Ford
Excellent.
label.
I'm so glad we're starting here. I've been hearing people
Yeah.
say cantaloupe and honeydew, and I don't know
Honeydew.
what a melon
What kind?
is.
Tell
Yes.
us. Tell us
I
the
will.
kinds.
I will. So Rocky Ford, if you're not familiar, is sort of you basically take I-25 to Pueblo and then jog over to Rocky Ford via US Highway 50. I have been to Rocky Ford several times because my childhood best friend's family was from La Junta, and it's about 30 minutes outside. And prior to the late 90s, Denver didn't have any Sonic drive-ups restaurants, but Rocky Ford had one. So I ate many a grilled cheese sandwich at the Rocky Ford Sonic.
Hell yes.
That's the extent of my Rocky Ford experience. But yes, when we say Rocky Ford melon, we mean cantaloupe, honeydew, dove melons, which is like a white meat, what they call a white meat cantaloupe, which is coveted for its sweetness. It's much sweeter than a run-of-the-mill cantaloupe that you would see that's orange in the inside. Like the meat of the melon is white in the dove melons. But this also covers yellow flesh watermelons and traditional watermelons that they grow in regular, seedless, and personal size. So Rocky Ford melons are a lot of different kinds of melons.
So are they just why are they? I'm so
It's
confused.
just an umbrella term.
Are they just like melons that come out of Rocky Ford?
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's prime. We've got a couple things going on here. George Washington Swink, the gentleman that helped to sort of found Rocky Ford, was one of those people that brought the irrigation, that created the enough water in an environment that was already good that he found for growing melons. So this was late 1800s. The melons had been growing in Rocky Ford since about the same time that the place was founded. So it's a combination of that irrigation being brought to Rocky Ford and then the warm temperatures during the day and the very steep drop of temperatures at night. That creates the environment for the perfect melon. As for the Rocky Ford name covering all of these melons, they've been growing them for over 100 years, various farms there. But in 2011, there was a listeria outbreak 90 miles from Rocky Ford at another farm, but it was misrepresented in the media as a Rocky Ford melon problem.
Oh, no.
And Rocky Ford had no trademark on a name or any way to sort of reclaim their name, like this wasn't us. So the Rocky Ford Growers Association was created at this time, and they trademarked their name. So if it's a Rocky Ford melon of any of those varieties I said, it will say Rocky Ford on the sticker. And that's the only way you know it's truly a Rocky Ford melon.
Huh.
So,
How do they compare to non-Rocky Ford melons?
I think it's probably that the sweetness factor. So again, that temperature change is what they say is what makes the sweet. So Rocky Ford is known as the sweet melon capital since 1887. So maybe it's a little bit of branding too, I would say.
The peach, though.
Exactly. Okay, so it says temperatures reach 100 to 110 degrees during the day, but cool down to 40 to 50 degrees at night. This is what helps their melons develop the natural sugars. That's what really makes them the sweetest. And so you can get Rocky Ford. The cool thing is, and I think this is true probably with all of the crops we talked about, you can get them at King Soopers, Safeway, City Market, or Sprouts, but you can also buy them directly from farm stands in the area. I'll put a link in the show notes because we are currently in Rocky Ford melon season through September. So if you want to buy them, you can. But again, look for that sticker because that is how you know it is truly a Rocky Ford melon. More fun facts. Rocky Ford's high school mascot is the Meloneer, which is a giant, muscular watermelon.
The best.
Love him.
The cool thing I found in researching this is, I don't know about you guys, but I have a hard time knowing how to pick a good melon. I've heard different things.
You knock on it, don't you?
Well, yes.
Spot on the Get the spot.
Yes. So for a watermelon, you look for what's called the field spot, which is a large yellow patch on one side of the melon. And if the color is creamy to buttery yellow, it's ripe. If it's white, that means it's overripe. So I think that's where it's been sitting sort of in the farm, in the land. And then, yes, if you tap it, a ripe watermelon will have a deeper sound, and an overripe melon will sound more hollow, meaning the inside is going soft. So you want it to sound like pretty hefty, I guess, because it's water, basically. So as it gets overripe, there's less water in it. And contrary to what you might think, you want a dull, heavy watermelon. It might not be the prettiest, but if it's heavy, that means that it's holding a lot of water and it's very ripe. I have to say, I really enjoyed researching. I was like, this is when I know I have the perfect job, because I enjoyed spending 6 to 8 hours reading about melons from Colorado.
You read for 8 hours about melons?
I pulled so many different, I pulled all kinds of different, I tried to double check facts on things to make sure. Because George Washington Swink, the guy that brought the irrigation, also claims to have created the melon crate that they ship melons in. Apparently, according to, I could only find one source though. Prior to this, they shipped melons in barrels. And then in the 1800s, this guy supposedly created the melon crate, but I couldn't find a second source for that. So. All right. Well, good job, you guys. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Someone say goodbye.
Bye.
My gosh.
Bye.
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 Okay, bye.
Hey, see you next time, everyone.
Okay. Bye. We've got sources for all our crazy fun facts in the show notes for this episode. But we want to hear from you, too. Do you know anything cool about Colorado's favorite peaches, melons, chilies, or corn? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text with your name and neighborhood to the Always Buy Colorado hotline at 720-500-5418. Again, the Always Buy Colorado hotline is open at 720-500-5418. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell Dr. Michael Bartolo about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye-bye. Always buy Colorado. That was the slogan. I feel like I'm Colorado proud. Always buy Colorado. Okay. ABC. That's right.